The vast laboratory aboard the flagship, Stellar Dominance, hummed with energy as Dr. Smith adjusted his instruments. His thin fingers moved across the control panel, while other alien scientists scurried around, their movements precise and purposeful. The mind control serum, glowing with a soft blue light, sat in its containment chamber, the result of 50 years of research. Another success. Commander Gray, Dr. Smith announced, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the test results. The latest subject, a creature from the Proxima system, had completely submitted to the serum's influence within seconds. That makes it our 1,000th successful test across 500 different species. Commander Gray stood tall, his military uniform adorned with medals of conquest. His pale skin reflected the blue glow of the laboratory equipment as he walked closer to examine the results. Excellent work, Doctor. No resistance at all. None, sir. The serum bypasses all natural mental defenses. It rewrites neural pathways and establishes complete control within moments. Dr. Smith pulled up more data screens, showing brainwave patterns from various test subjects. From the simplest creatures to the most advanced civilizations we've encountered, nothing has shown even the slightest immunity. The commander's thin lips curved into a smile. The High Council will be pleased. Prepare a full report. We'll begin mass production immediately. In another section of the laboratory, test subjects from different worlds remained in their containment cells. Each one moved in perfect synchronization, following simple commands broadcast through the ship's control system. Their eyes held the same vacant, blue-tinted stare, a sign of the serum's dominance over their minds. "Look at them," Dr. Smith said to his assistant, Dr. Reed. "Perfect harmony. No more wars, no more resistance, just pure order." He checked the vital signs of each subject, noting their stable conditions. The serum doesn't just control them, it keeps them healthy, focused, and productive. Dr. Reed nodded, making notes on her tablet. The latest batch shows even faster results. Subjugation time is down to 3.2 seconds. She paused, looking at a new alert on her screen. "Sir, the scout ships have reported finding a new world. They're calling it Earth." Commander Gray, who had been examining the production facilities, turned sharply. "Show me." A holographic image appeared in the center of the laboratory. A blue and green planet rotated slowly, white clouds swirling across its surface. Data streams scrolled alongside it, showing atmospheric composition, temperature ranges, and population centers. "The dominant species calls themselves humans," Dr. Reed explained. "They're in their early space age, just beginning to explore their solar system. Technological level, moderate. Military capability, limited to planetary defense. Brain structure." She paused, double-checking the readings. "Surprisingly complex, but within expected parameters for serum compatibility." Commander Gray studied the image intensely. "Another primitive world ripe for advancement under our guidance. Doctor, begin preparing the serum for mass deployment. I want enough to subdue their major population centers in the first wave." Dr. Smith was already moving to the production controls. "Yes, Commander. Based on their population numbers, we'll need approximately 50,000 units for the initial phase. Production can begin immediately." The laboratory burst into increased activity. Scientists moved with practiced efficiency, preparing equipment and adjusting formulas. The blue glow of the serum became brighter as production ramped up, filling container after container with the shimmering liquid. "Send a message to the High Council," Commander Gray ordered, watching the activity with satisfaction. "Tell them we found our next target, and preparation for acquisition has begun. Earth will be a valuable addition to our empire." As the message was sent, none of them suspected that this routine conquest would be anything but ordinary. The serum had never failed, not once in thousands of tests across hundreds of worlds. They had no reason to believe Earth would be any different. But in their confidence, they had forgotten one crucial fact. They had never encountered the human mind before. Dr. Smith made his final notes for the day. Serum production for Earth conquest. Day 1. Expected success rate, 100%. Resistance probability, 0%. Status, proceeding as planned. If only they knew what awaited them. 3 weeks after discovery, the alien fleet moved into position at the edge of Earth's solar system. 5 massive ships, each the size of a small moon, hung silently in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit. Their sleek metallic hulls absorbed rather than reflected light, making them nearly invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Gray studied the tactical display. Earth rotated slowly in the holographic projection, oblivious to the fate approaching from the darkness. "Report, Lieutenant Fox," he ordered, his voice calm and measured. Lieutenant Fox, who led the advanced scout team, stepped forward. "Sir, we've completed our reconnaissance. The humans have no unified planetary government. They're divided into approximately 200 political entities they call nations. Military capabilities vary widely, but none possess technology that could threaten our vessels." Commander Gray nodded. "And their detection systems?" "Primitive, sir. Their most advanced satellites might detect energy spikes from our engines if we approach carelessly, but our stealth systems will render us effectively invisible." Dr. Smith entered the bridge, carrying his data tablet. His eyes shone with excitement as he approached the commander. "The Serum production is complete," he reported. 50,000 units ready for deployment. We've adjusted the formula to match human biology based on the samples our probes collected. Commander Gray turned to face the scientist. "And your confidence level, Doctor?" "Absolute, sir." Dr. Smith projected new images onto the main display. Human brain scans taken secretly from various Earth locations. Their neural structure is actually less complex than several species we've already conquered. The Serum should work even more effectively on humans than our baseline predictions. The commander walked slowly around the holographic Earth, studying the blue planet with cold calculation. "Begin Phase 1. Deploy infiltration teams to these locations." He marked 5 points on the map, major cities on different continents. "Team Alpha will land here," he continued, highlighting a remote area in the North American continent. "We need a live test subject before full deployment. Lieutenant Fox, you'll lead this operation personally." "Yes, Commander," Fox replied with a sharp salute. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for humanity's first real contact with alien life, though the humans wouldn't realize it until it was too late. 24 hours later, Lieutenant Fox and his 3-person team stood in a forest clearing 30 miles outside a mid-sized American city. Their ship, barely larger than a delivery truck, was hidden beneath camouflage netting that rendered it invisible to both eyes and scanning equipment. "Remember," Fox instructed his team, "we need a healthy adult. No harm is to be done beyond what's necessary for capture. The subject needs to be in optimal condition for the Serum test." The aliens had taken human form, their advanced shape-shifting technology allowing them to mimic human appearance down to the cellular level. Only their eyes, with a faint blue ring around the iris, might give them away to a very observant human. As darkness fell, they approached a small house on the outskirts of a rural community. Lights glowed from inside, and a single vehicle was parked in the driveway. "One heat signature inside," reported Officer Green, checking her scanner. "Adult male, approximately 30 Earth years old. No weapons detected. No communication devices active." Lieutenant Fox nodded. "Perfect. Officer White, prepare the stun device. Officer Black, secure the perimeter." Inside the house, Tom Miller had just finished his dinner, a forest ranger who enjoyed his solitude. Tom lived alone in this small house, miles from his nearest neighbor. He was washing dishes when he heard a knock at his front door. Drying his hands, he walked to the door, wondering who would visit him so late. When he opened it, he found 4 strangers in official-looking uniforms. "Good evening," the leader said with an unnaturally perfect smile. "We're from the Environmental Survey Department. There's been a report of contamination in this area. May we come in?" Tom hesitated, something about their appearance setting off warning signals in his mind. Their movements seemed too coordinated, their expressions too similar. "I'm actually with the Forest Service," Tom replied cautiously. "I haven't heard about any contamination. Let me see your identification." Lieutenant Fox's smile never wavered as he raised his hand, revealing the small device. "Of course. Right here." A flash of blue light was the last thing Tom saw before darkness claimed him. "Subject acquired," Fox reported into his communicator, returning to base for testing. The first human test subject was now in alien hands, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Tom Miller awoke strapped to a cold metal table. His head pounded with a dull ache, and bright lights above him forced his eyes to squint. The room around him hummed with unfamiliar technology. Strange devices blinked and pulsed on the walls. This was definitely not a hospital. "Subject is conscious," announced a clinical voice. Tom turned his head to see what appeared to be a man in a white lab coat. But something was wrong with his face. Too perfect, too symmetrical. His eyes contained a faint blue ring that seemed to glow in the bright room. "Where am I?" Tom demanded, pulling against his restraints. "Who are you people?" Dr. Smith approached the table, studying Tom with scientific curiosity. "Fascinating. Your heart rate has increased by only 20% despite your situation. Most species show much higher stress responses." Lieutenant Fox stood nearby, watching the proceedings with arms folded. "Begin the procedure, Doctor. Commander Gray wants results within the hour." Tom struggled harder. "What procedure?" "Look, I'm a federal employee. People will come looking for me." Dr. Smith ignored Tom's protests and reached for a syringe filled with luminous blue liquid. "This won't hurt, human. In fact, you'll soon feel nothing but peace." As the doctor approached with the syringe, Tom felt a surge of adrenaline. His years as a forest ranger had taught him to stay calm in dangerous situations, but this was beyond anything he had ever faced. "The serum requires intravenous administration for optimal effectiveness," Dr. Smith explained to Lieutenant Fox, speaking as if Tom couldn't understand. "Once injected, we should see complete neural compliance within 5 seconds." Tom watched in horror as the needle pierced his skin. The blue liquid entered his bloodstream, creating an immediate burning sensation that raced up his arm and toward his heart. "Countdown to compliance," Dr. Smith announced. 5, 4, 3. Inside Tom's mind, something strange was happening. Instead of the fog of obedience the aliens expected, Tom felt his thoughts becoming sharper, clearer. The burning sensation reached his brain, but rather than subduing his consciousness, it seemed to expand it. 2, 1. Compliance should be complete. Dr. Smith leaned over Tom expectantly. "Human, can you hear me?" Tom stared back, his eyes clear and focused. "I hear you perfectly." Dr. Smith frowned slightly. "You will now obey all commands without question." "Acknowledge." "I don't think I will," Tom replied calmly. Alarmed, Lieutenant Fox stepped forward. "What's happening? Why isn't he compliant?" Dr. Smith checked his instruments, confusion evident on his usually impassive face. "This is impossible. The serum is in his bloodstream, but his neural patterns aren't conforming to the expected template." Inside Tom's mind, the serum was producing unexpected effects. Rather than overriding his consciousness, it seemed to be enhancing it. He could suddenly recall memories with perfect clarity. Books he had read years ago, conversations from his childhood, even the license plate numbers of cars that had passed his ranger station last week. "Something's wrong," Dr. Smith muttered, adjusting controls on a nearby console. "His brain activity is increasing, not decreasing. This has never happened before." Tom found he could now understand the symbols on the aliens' equipment. Somehow, the serum was translating their language into something he could comprehend. Even more strangely, he was beginning to sense the thoughts of the beings around him. Not clearly, but impressions, flashes of intent. "Increase the dosage," Lieutenant Fox ordered. Dr. Smith hesitated. That could kill them. We need a live subject for study. While they argued, Tom focused intensely on the restraints holding his right wrist. To his amazement, he felt the lock mechanism in his mind. And with a thought, it clicked open. Neither alien noticed as Tom carefully kept his hand in place, waiting for the right moment. He sensed their confusion, their growing alarm, and underneath it all, their fear. They had never encountered resistance like this before. "Contact Commander Gray," Lieutenant Fox ordered. "Tell him we have an anomaly." As Dr. Smith turned toward the communication panel, Tom made his move. With speed that surprised even him, he released his other restraints and leaped from the table. "The subject is loose," Lieutenant Fox shouted, reaching for a weapon at his side. But Tom was already moving, his mind processing information at an impossible rate. Somehow, he knew exactly where to strike to incapacitate these beings. As alarms began to blare throughout the facility, Commander Gray received an urgent message. The Serum has failed. The human's mind is fighting back. The test had just become something much more dangerous for both sides. Commander Gray stood rigid as he stared through the one-way observation window. On the other side, Tom Miller sat calmly at a metal table, despite being surrounded by 4 armed guards. After his escape attempt, they had managed to recapture him using stun technology, but not before he had incapacitated 3 security officers and accessed a computer terminal. "Explain this failure, Doctor," Commander Gray demanded, his voice dangerously quiet. Dr. Smith nervously adjusted settings on his tablet, reviewing the data for the 100th time. "Commander, I've never seen anything like this. The serum entered his bloodstream as designed, but instead of suppressing his consciousness, it appears to have enhanced it." "Enhanced?" Commander Gray turned sharply. "Define enhanced." "His neural activity has increased by 300% since administration. Brain regions that normally operate independently are now showing synchronized patterns. It's as if..." Dr. Smith hesitated. "As if what?" "As if the serum is acting as a catalyst rather than a suppressant. His mind is using our technology to evolve." Commander Gray slammed his fist against the wall. "This is unacceptable. 50 years of research, thousands of successful tests, and now this primitive creature defies us." On the other side of the glass, Tom suddenly looked directly at them, even though the window should have been invisible from his side. He smiled slightly. "He can sense us," Dr. Reed said, joining them with a fresh set of brain scans. "His perception has expanded beyond normal human limitations. Look at these readings from his visual cortex." Dr. Smith examined the new data. "Fascinating. He's processing sensory information far beyond the visible spectrum. Infrared, ultraviolet, even detecting minute electrical changes." "I don't care about fascinating," Commander Gray snapped. "I care about results. Fix this or find a way to neutralize him before." An alarm suddenly blared throughout the lab. On the monitors, they watched as Tom easily broke free from his restraints again, moving with impossible speed as he disabled the guards without seriously harming them. "Seal the room," Commander Gray ordered. Heavy metal shields slammed down over the doors and windows. Tom paused, examining the sealed room calmly. Then he placed his hand against the wall and closed his eyes. "What is he doing?" Commander Gray demanded. Dr. Reed checked her instruments. "His brain waves are synchronizing with our ship's electrical systems. He's trying to interface with our computers." "Impossible," Dr. Smith protested. "No organic mind cold." The lights flickered throughout the laboratory. On every screen, data began scrolling at incredible speeds. "He's downloading information about us," Dr. Reed whispered in horror. "Our history, our technology, our plans for Earth." Commander Gray activated the emergency protocols. "Prepare a neural disruptor. We need to shut down his brain activities immediately." As the scientists rushed to comply, Dr. Smith continued analyzing the data from Tom's brain. Something was nagging at him. a pattern he hadn't noticed before. "Wait," he said suddenly. "Look at this." He projected a holographic model of Tom's neural structure. Human brains have something unique. These regions here and here. They process abstract concepts, create metaphors, imagine scenarios that don't exist. "What's your point, Doctor?" Commander Gray asked impatiently. "Our serum was designed to target logical decision-making centers and override them with our commands. But in humans, their decisions aren't just logical. They're emotional, intuitive, even irrational. The serum couldn't find the expected pathways to override because humans don't think the way other species do." Dr. Reed's eyes widened with understanding, and instead of failing completely, the serum enhanced those unique qualities. It's using the natural human neural network as a framework to build something new. Inside the sealed room, Tom had stopped his attempt to access their systems. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, deep in concentration. "What is he doing now?" Commander Gray demanded. Dr. Smith checked the monitors. "His brain activity suggests he's processing everything he learned about us and our technology. He's thinking. Thinking. That's all." "Commander, you don't understand," Dr. Reed said quietly. "Before our serum, it would have taken him years to understand our technology. At his current neural processing speed, he'll master it in hours." Commander Gray stared at the human through the reinforced window. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. "We need to study more humans," Dr. Smith said finally. "This one subject may be an anomaly. We need to understand why the serum affected him differently. And if they all respond this way?" Commander Gray asked. No one answered. The implications were too terrifying to voice aloud. In the sealed room, Tom opened his eyes and smiled again. The test subject had become the experimenter, and the aliens didn't even realize it yet. 3 days had passed since Tom's capture. The aliens kept him in isolation, studying him from a distance through various sensors. They no longer dared to enter his containment chamber after he had nearly escaped twice more. Energy fields now surrounded his cell, powerful enough to vaporize ordinary matter. But Tom was no longer ordinary. He sat motionless in the center of his cell, eyes closed. To the aliens monitoring him, he appeared to be sleeping or meditating. They didn't realize he was actually extending his newfound mental abilities, testing the boundaries of what he could perceive and influence. In the main laboratory, Dr. Smith and Dr. Reed worked frantically, trying to understand what had gone wrong with their perfect serum. "The latest simulations confirm our theory," Dr. Reed said, pointing to complex neural models on her screen. "Human brains process information using parallel networks rather than the linear pathways we've seen in other species. The serum's control mechanism can't establish dominance because there's no central control point to target." Dr. Smith nodded grimly. "Instead, it's amplifying their natural neural connections and creating new ones. The human mind is essentially using our serum as fuel for its own evolution." Commander Gray paced behind them, his patience wearing thin. "I don't need theories. I need solutions. The High Council is demanding answers." "There's more," Dr. Reed continued hesitantly. "We've detected unusual energy patterns emanating from the subject's brain. He appears to be extending his consciousness somehow, perhaps attempting to reach beyond his containment." "Impossible," Commander Gray scoffed. "Those barriers would stop a warship's energy beam." An alarm suddenly blared throughout the laboratory. Red lights flashed as security systems activated across the ship. "Warning. Containment breach in progress. Sector 7 Alpha compromised," announced the ship's automated system. Commander Gray rushed to the security monitors. The feed from Tom's cell showed him still sitting peacefully in the center of the room, but something was wrong with the image. It flickered slightly, like a poor quality transmission. "That's not real-time footage," Dr. Smith realized. "He's looped the feed." Meanwhile, Tom moved silently through the ship's corridors. The enhanced perception granted by the serum allowed him to sense the location of every alien aboard. He could feel their thoughts, not the specific content, but their general emotional states: confusion, alarm, and growing fear. He reached a junction where 3 corridors met. Security officers would arrive from the left in approximately 10 seconds. Tom placed his hand against a wall panel and closed his eyes. The ship's electrical system responded to his mental commands, shutting down lights in 2 corridors while opening a maintenance hatch to his right. "He's manipulating our systems directly with his mind," Dr. Reed gasped, watching security feeds as lights and doors throughout the ship responded to Tom's will. "The serum has somehow connected his neural pathways to our technology's operating frequencies." Commander Gray activated the ship-wide communication system. "All personnel, initiate full lockdown procedures. Capture the human subject at any cost." But Tom was always one step ahead, sensing their plans before they could execute them. He reached the ship's lower hangar bay, where smaller scout vessels were docked. The bay doors were sealed with multiple redundant systems, impossible to open without proper authorization codes. Tom smiled slightly as he approached the control panel. He didn't need codes anymore. He simply placed his hand on the surface and let his consciousness flow into the circuitry. The massive doors began to open. "He's breaching the hangar bay," shouted Lieutenant Fox over the communication system. "All available units respond." Alarms blared throughout the ship as Tom entered one of the scout vessels. His enhanced mind absorbed the alien control systems instantly, understanding their function as if he had been flying such ships all his life. The small craft hummed to life under his touch. As security forces flooded into the hangar bay, weapons drawn, Tom's vessel lifted off the deck. Energy beams lanced toward him, but he anticipated each shot, maneuvering with impossible precision. "Close the bay doors," Commander Gray ordered desperately. The massive doors began to slide shut, but too slowly. Tom's stolen ship accelerated through the narrowing gap and into the darkness of space. On the bridge, Commander Gray watched in stunned silence as the small craft disappeared from their sensors, headed directly toward Earth. "Track him," he finally ordered. Unable to comply, responded the sensor officer. "He's masked his energy signature somehow." Dr. Smith stared at the view screen, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his alarm. "Commander, I believe we've made a terrible mistake. We didn't find a new species to conquer. We found a predator," Dr. Reed finished quietly. And now that predator was heading home, carrying knowledge of their presence, their technology, and their plans for Earth. General Mike Wilson stared at the man sitting across from him, trying to process the incredible story he'd just heard. Tom Miller, a simple forest ranger 3 days ago, now spoke with calm authority about alien invasions and mind control serums. "Let me get this straight," the general said, rubbing his forehead. "You're saying a fleet of alien ships is hiding beyond Pluto, planning to use some kind of mind control drug on our entire population?" Tom nodded. "Yes, sir. And we have less than 48 hours before they launch their first wave of infiltration ships." The small underground bunker at Military Base Delta was filled with top military and scientific personnel. They had gathered after Tom had somehow bypassed all security systems and landed an alien craft directly on the base's airfield. "And this, Serum," said Dr. Adams, the lead government scientist, "you're claiming it enhanced your mental abilities rather than controlling your mind." "Exactly," Tom replied. "Their serum works on a principle of neural suppression and replacement. It's designed for species with centralized, linear thought processes. The human mind is different. We think associatively, emotionally, with multiple parallel processes." He smiled slightly. "Our messy, chaotic way of thinking is our greatest defense." General Wilson stood up and paced the room. "Even if we believe you, and I'm not saying I do, what can we possibly do against a technologically superior force?" Tom's eyes gleamed with an unnatural clarity. "We have 2 advantages they don't expect: their own technology, which I brought with me, and their serum, which I can reproduce." The room fell silent. "You want to use their mind control drug on our own people?" Dr. Adams asked, horrified. "Not for control," Tom corrected. "For enhancement. What happened to me can happen to others. The serum doesn't control humans. It elevates us. It could be our only chance." 24 hours later, Commander Gray stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching in disbelief as his carefully constructed invasion plan collapsed. "How did they detect our scout ships?" he demanded. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of this." Lieutenant Fox studied the tactical display with growing concern. "Unknown, sir, but Earth's military forces were waiting at each insertion point. All 12 scout ships have been captured. And the infiltration teams. No communication from any of them." Lieutenant Fox hesitated. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface, similar to our own technology, but different somehow." Dr. Smith entered the bridge, looking exhausted. "Commander, I've completed my analysis of the humans' escape. He didn't just steal information from our systems. He improved upon it. Based on energy readings, I believe the humans are adapting our technology using their unique neural patterns." Commander Gray slammed his fist on the console. "Impossible. They're primitives." An alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. "Warning. Unknown vessels approaching. Combat formation detected." The main view screen activated, showing a formation of ships rising from Earth's atmosphere. They were clearly built using Earth materials, but their design incorporated elements of alien technology, impossible for humans to have developed independently. "Magnify," Commander Gray ordered, his voice suddenly quiet. The screen zoomed in on the lidship. Through the viewport, they could see human pilots. Each one had the same distinctive look in their eyes. The heightened awareness, the unusual clarity that Tom Miller had displayed. "They've weaponized the serum," Dr. Smith whispered in horror. "They're using it to enhance their own people." Lieutenant Fox checked his readings again. "Sir, we're detecting over 500 vessels. Energy signatures suggest they're armed with weapons based on our own designs, but with modifications we've never seen before." Commander Gray sank slowly into his command chair. His perfect invasion, planned for decades, had unraveled in less than a week. How? He asked no one in particular. How could they advance so quickly? Dr. Smith watched the approaching Earth fleet with scientific fascination despite his fear. "It's their minds, sir. They don't think like we do. They make intuitive leaps, connect unrelated concepts, imagine possibilities that don't exist yet, and then make them real." The serum simply removed the biological limitations on those abilities. The communication system activated. Tom Miller's face appeared on the screen, his eyes now glowing faintly with the same blue tint as the serum. "Commander Gray," Tom said calmly, "your invasion is over before it began. Earth is now under our protection." As the human fleet surrounded the alien ships, Commander Gray realized a terrible truth. They had created their own worst enemy. The perfect serum, designed to enslave the galaxy, had instead given humanity the power to change it. The hunters had become the hunted. 1 year had passed since the day Earth's enhanced defense fleet surrounded the alien ships. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined before first contact. Commander Gray stood at the observation window of the neutral space station, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Once the target of his conquest, now it was a place of both wonder and caution for his people. Beside him stood Tom Miller, no longer a simple forest ranger, but Earth's chief ambassador to the galactic community. "Your people have built 3 more orbital platforms since my last visit," Commander Gray noted, his tone carefully neutral. "Your progress continues to surprise us." Tom nodded. "The serum accelerated our technological development, but we've learned to control its effects. Not everyone receives it now. Only volunteers who pass rigorous psychological screening." The space station represented a remarkable achievement of cooperation. Built using a combination of alien and human technology, It served as neutral ground for the ongoing peace negotiations. "The High Council has reviewed your proposal," Commander Gray said, turning away from the window. "They've agreed to your terms, with certain modifications." Tom smiled slightly. "I expected nothing less. Shall we discuss the details?" They moved to a conference room where representatives from both sides waited. Dr. Smith was there, now serving as a scientific liaison rather than conquest researcher. His curiosity about human neural patterns had transformed into genuine respect. "Before we begin," Tom said, addressing the assembled delegates, "I want to acknowledge something important. Despite how our relationship began, we've all learned valuable lessons from each other." Dr. Smith activated a holographic display showing neural patterns from various species across the galaxy. "Indeed, our studies have revealed something remarkable. While human minds responded uniquely to the serum, we've discovered that other species have their own unique responses. Not as dramatic as humans, but significant nonetheless. The serum was never meant to be a tool of conquest," Tom continued. "Its true potential is as a means of understanding both ourselves and each other." Commander Gray, once the architect of invasion, now found himself in the unfamiliar role of peacemaker. "The modified treaty establishes clear boundaries for both our civilizations. Earth and its solar system remain sovereign human territory. In exchange, humans will share their unique insights on the serum's potential for enhancement rather than control." The human delegates nodded in agreement. After the initial crisis, humanity had quickly realized that responding with aggression would only lead to endless conflict. Instead, they had chosen a more difficult path: understanding their former enemies. "There's one more item," Tom said. "The Earth Coalition has approved the Joint Research Initiative, human and alien scientists working together to explore the full potential of the serum when used ethically." Dr. Smith couldn't hide his excitement. "The possibilities are extraordinary. If we combine the unique thought patterns of multiple species, we might achieve breakthroughs none of us could manage alone." As the delegates formalized the treaty with their signatures and biometric confirmations, Tom reflected on the strange journey that had brought them all to this moment. What had begun as an invasion had transformed into something neither side could have predicted. Later, as the alien delegation prepared to depart, Commander Gray approached Tom privately. "There's something I've wanted to ask you," he said. "When you first escaped, you could have simply warned your people, prepared them to fight us. Instead, you chose this path. Why?" Tom looked out at the stars visible through the station's viewport. "When the serum enhanced my mind, I didn't just gain knowledge or intelligence. I gained perspective. I could see beyond the immediate threat to the possible futures. War would have cost both our civilizations dearly, even if humanity won." "And now?" Commander Gray asked. "Now we both have a chance to grow in ways neither of us imagined," Tom replied. "Your people created the serum seeking control, but found connection instead. Sometimes our greatest mistakes lead to our most important discoveries." As the alien ship departed, Earth continued its rotation below. Cities glowed in the darkness across the night side of the planet, their lights symbolizing the resilience of human consciousness, the unexpected variable in an equation the aliens had thought perfect. In laboratories across Earth, scientists continued their careful work with the modified serum, unlocking human potential while maintaining the chaotic, unpredictable thinking that had saved them. What had begun as a weapon of conquest had become a bridge between worlds. The human mind, with all its contradictions and creativity, had not only resisted control, it had transformed the very nature of the challenge it faced. In the vastness of space, that might be humanity's greatest strength of all, not just surviving threats, but reshaping them into opportunities.